I was just super frustrated with the whole industry, making offers, trying stuff out, no success, just losing deals, hitting the wall, not being motivated, whatever we did. Anything that we touched, like rent collection, lease management, all these things that we had to do were just super frustrating. If you don't know your numbers, you're not going to scale.
Welcome back, everyone, to the Learn Like a CPA show. I'm your host, Ryan Bakey. Today we have Saad on from Baseline. Saad, can you tell us a little bit about your background and your story? And I know you're also a CPA too.
Yeah, I'm actually a former CPA. So I guess career-wise, former CPA, used to work at PwC back in the day. Had a small tax practice for 5 years and decided to do my MBA, went into management consulting. So I did that for about 4 or 5 years. And I fell in love with FinTech. So I left BCG in 2019, joined Plaid, which is one of the fintechs. I'm sure you use it.
You work for Boston Consulting Group?
I was for work for BCG, and then went to Plaid. Kind of did the startup thing for a while. Loved that. And while I was at Plaid, I met the founders of Baseline. And so I'll tell you a little bit more about that later. But joined Baseline, which is an all-in-one banking platform that's built for real estate investors. And I'm also a real estate investor. Obviously, I invest really mostly in Philly. My motivation for investing was I wanted to generate retirement income for my parents. And I accidentally became a landlord like a lot of people do in this country, basically by not selling my first house. I was moving from Brooklyn to New Jersey. One of my uncles, who's really a big property owner and an investor, he said, "Hey, don't sell that house. Keep it." I had it on sale and I took it off the market, and I didn't know anything about landlording or being an investor, nothing. And he said, "Just rent it out. Trust me, this is going to be good for you." And just kind of figured it out, started renting that property. And 6 months later, I was like, whoa, this thing is like cash flowing really well. I should think about real estate investing. So from there, that's how my real estate investing journey started. It took me a while to get started, though. I mean, a lot of people talk about the success, but it took me 2 years making offers, trying stuff out, no success, just losing deals, hitting the wall, not being motivated. And then eventually I decided to partner up with a guy that used to work at BCG as well. And we said, hey, let's go at it together. I'm a people person, so I like to work with people. That ended up working out for us, and we decided to invest in Philly, which is about an hour and a half from New York.
Were you a burnt out CPA?
I was. You know how it is. I used to do, when I started, I was in audit. Eventually went into advisory. So, yeah, it took a long time. That takes a toll on you.
Yeah.
But I actually went into work for a private hedge fund where I was doing financial statements and all of that. And during that time, I also started my tax practice. But at the time, tax laws were not as favorable to investors back then. And really, I decided to not be a CPA because it seemed like everything was moving to tech. QuickBooks was taking over the personal tax return. And the business was just getting marginalized in terms of like the margin you can make on it back then as a tax practice. And so, yeah, I decided to make a change.
What made you switch over to more of the software, So Baseline can you explain a little bit more about Baseline?
Yeah, absolutely. I think I like to tell the story of how I kind of ran into Baseline, because I think people remember stories and they appreciate it too. So when I started investing in real estate, I was working in a technology company. And, I think a lot of us expect, the tools we use to run the businesses that we have to kind of keep up with us or really help us in many ways. And I was just super frustrated with the whole industry, whatever we did. We were self-managing at the time. And anything that we touched, like rent collection, lease management, like all these things that we had to do were just super frustrating. Old tools that were just outdated. And my partner and I, there has to be a better way to do this, right? This doesn't make sense. And I was lucky that one of my friends introduced me to the two co-founders of Baseline. They had just started the company. And I told them, like, hey, I'm an investor. I'm doing the burst strategy. I have all these units, but I hate the management part of it because of all the technology that doesn't really exist. And, what happened to us was like anybody, even with one property, you end up having 10, 15, 20 different relationships that you have to manage logins just to run one property. And that was the frustrating part. especially when you have a day job. And so I met the founders a year before I joined Baselane, and I really fell in love with the idea. And what their vision is to build an all-in-one platform, kind of like a financial hub to run your entire real estate business. And the idea there is we start with the banking. So we've created a business checking account that allows you to get a lot more organized. And so this is a business checking account built 100% for real estate investors. And it has features like virtual accounts and cards, high rewards, cash back, things that you don't get at most banks that are regular, traditional banks, or even some of the digital banks that are out there today. And so it's made for real estate investors, and we've built bookkeeping software that really makes your life a lot easier to be able to tag things and organize stuff. And my thing was, and the thing that really excited me is that if you don't know your numbers, you're not going to scale. That's just a reality, right, as an investor. And we are helping people get organized so they understand how they're actually performing so they can scale up. So Baseline's got the banking, it's got the bookkeeping and reporting, as well as a tax package that can be used by a CPA. In addition to that, we build property management tools like online rent collection, lease creation. We're building a lot more. So we're building a lot more this year in terms of tenant screening and all of that. In addition to that, on the banking side, we're building a lot more features that really help people automate that side of things. So one of the things that we hear at this conference, even at STR Wealth that we were attending, is everybody wants to do profit first, right? With profit first, you want to have virtual accounts and you want to be able to automate rules that move that money from A to B to C as you allocate it across the different accounts. With Baseline, you can do that. So that's the vision, is we want to build a platform that brings all of these things together into one place so that you can run your entire real estate business from there. And so in addition to the banking, we've also added lending and insurance and other things, financial services that people need.
Yeah, you said something there about like investors don't know their numbers. I see that all the time where they have these nice calculators or pro formas before they go to buy a property to see if it's going to make money or not. But then they're not even keeping up with their books to see if it's profitable.
Yeah, absolutely. It's really interesting. We just did research I personally interviewed 20 CPAs in January. And the goal was...
Real quick, guys, if you could think about how you found this podcast, maybe it was on Facebook, Instagram, maybe somebody shared it with you. I don't run ads for the show or have sponsorships, so the only way this grows is through word of mouth. If this was valuable for you in any way, the only ask that I can make is that you share it with somebody else. Pass it on to the next person whose investing journey or business can be changed by listening to the show. Much love, guys, and let's get into the episode.
I personally interviewed 20 CPAs in January. And the goal was we wanted to understand how they interact with real estate investors and what are they learning about their customers that they serve, and how are they dealing with that. And one of the things that I think most people probably know is that people who are tax experts, CPAs or accountants, they want to focus on the tax side, right? They want to help you with the strategy and all of that, but they don't really want to touch the bookkeeping. And I don't know if you can relate to that if you'd like to do. Yeah. So what we learned a couple of things. One is that most investors that come to the CPAs and accountants are in the range of 4 to 20 properties, roughly. Right? That's when you know you need some help. We also learned that people are not really doing their bookkeeping. Now, it doesn't mean that they don't think it's important. That's interesting because they know that, they need it, so they sign up for software like a QuickBooks Online or something like that. But the challenge is with something like that, they don't know how to use it. They don't know how to set it up correctly. It's not built for real estate. And they're not accountants, right? Even if you are an accountant like me, you're so busy, you don't have time to do all this stuff, right? And so what we're learning is people are not actually keeping up with their numbers, just closing the books once a month, for example, or even once a quarter, and they're just rolling it over to the CPA at the end of the year and creating all this work. And the second thing we asked the CPAs was like, okay, so how do you deal with that? Now, the CPAs, they don't necessarily obviously want to give a customer a negative experience, but they also have to spend all this time creating these financial statements. So then they have to, charge the customer extra money to help them build a P&L so they can use that to file a tax return. So that's another area where we think we can help, and which is why we're also building like a CPA partner program, because we think that you should use Baseline banking to get yourself organized, set up all the rules that we offer you so that you can automate some of the bookkeeping. And you're going to actually get a real P&L statement every month. It's real time. And you're going to be able to see exactly how you're performing for that property, for that unit, for your entire portfolio. And then at the end of the year, you can export it with all the receipts you uploaded into it and give it to your CPA to file the taxes. What I really like more about that is more that people then have awareness of like, how are you actually performing? Because I talked to so many people yesterday here at the conference, and how are you tracking it? It's kind of just like, oh, well,
There's money in my bank account.
Yeah, there's money there. I know it's making money. I'm pretty sure it's doing well. It's a good area, right?
Yeah,
I think I'm making
man.
$300 a door. And it's like, well, how much are you actually making? How efficient are you? Are you losing money? Are you making? I don't know. And so for me, anybody who's doing that is not running it like a business. And if you don't run it like a business, guess what? You're not going to be owning 20 properties, 30 properties, 50 properties. You're going to be just busy managing and trying to just stay afloat.
Yeah, and if you don't have the right numbers, you can't make decisions about your properties at all.
Yeah, absolutely. I'll tell you an example. Like, I had a property in Philly that had a huge, this is a real like landlord talk, right? It had a huge tree in the back. And that thing cash flows about, I don't know, something like $1,200 a month. It's 2 units, top and bottom. And now it's just like a C area. Like, I'm not looking for a lot of appreciation, but it cash flows really well. Now, we keep getting complaints about this tree, right? Oh, neighbors say, hey, we got to cut this tree, this and that. It costs $2,500 to cut the tree. Now, normally, in a unit like that, I wouldn't cut the tree, right? Unless it's dangerous or something like that, right? It was fine. It was healthy. We checked it out. Because, like, it doesn't justify, spending all that money. You're going to take 2, 3, 4 months to recover that cash back. But we know how that unit performs. We know how the tenants are doing. We know the valuation. So when I look at the P&L on Baseline, I can tell exactly what's going on. And we could say, you know what? Okay, we probably want to sell this thing in a year anyway. So that could be a selling point. I think we should cut the tree, for example. Now I can make a decision. Or I could have gone the other way and said, you know what? This makes no sense. I'm just going to shave some branches. I'm not cutting this tree, right? Mm-hmm. But guess what? Like, we cut the tree. We made the backyard much nicer. Just we know that we're going to probably sell it in a year. We want to get ready for that anyway. And the tenants are happy. It leads to less maintenance in the back. Neighbors are happy. And so it's just like you have to make these kind of decisions. And you can't make those decisions unless you know exactly where you stand.
Talk a little bit about more how the reports show up in Baseline, like the dashboard of the reports.
Absolutely. That's something the founders and I have built personally myself based on the pro formas that we had for our underwriting. Like when I analyze deals, we all have pro formas. We all have vacancy and all these things. So there's a couple of things. One is on the banking side. If you want to actually have a maintenance reserve account, for example, right, for a rainy day. If you actually want to have a vacancy account where you reserve money in case there's a vacancy and you have like some backup, you can actually create virtual accounts on Baseline that do that for you, for example. In terms of the reporting, it really depends on what you're doing, but we have a couple of different pre-configured reports, for example, like the NOI report, net operating income report. And so it's pretty simple. It's designed in a way that any real estate book would teach you, what the NOI should look like. And it's got your earnings, your operating expenses, et cetera, and the net. We've got a net cash flow report. We have a Schedule E report. All of it is dependent on basically getting all the data in. So if you're using Baseline Banking, obviously all of that's going to be already there. You can connect other credit cards and other accounts that you have into the platform. Using Plaid, it'll connect everything in. We have something called one-click categorization. So literally, it's all real estate categories that are already tagged to Schedule E. So all you have to do is figure out, okay, this is rent, this is cleaning fee, this is maintenance, this is supplies, whatever that is. This is a CapEx. And all the reports are generated in real time. So you can go over to the reporting section, select the property, select the date range, select the type of report you want. You can also do custom reporting and just run the whole thing and analyze what's going on. What I like to do is I'll look at the analytics section of a property and analyze, okay, what's going on the last 3-6 months? How's it going? Did we overspend somewhere? What happened? Is the maintenance creeping up on us and some units and things like that? And then I'll go into the P&L and then kind of generate that report. And you can export those, share it with your partners, your lenders that want to kind of give you the next deal, with your CPAs.
What's the biggest pain point for your business right now?
Baseline or my real estate business?
Baseline.
I think our focus is on growth. And so I wouldn't say it's a pain point. I think it's an opportunity. But I think really we're trying to establish the right partnerships and get the word out about Baselane. So right now, the more we can do to reach out to the community, meet people at conferences like we did here at STR Wealth, that's the main goal. Is we have aggressive goals to grow. We built an amazing product that I love. I'm a super user of Baselane, and I think we want to try to accelerate that as much as possible and get it out in front of as many investors as we can, so we can help them.
And I guess what's your number one tip or trick for a real estate investor to know?
Oh man, that's a lot. Yesterday I would say I went around and interviewed a bunch of investors for Baselane, and I did meet a lot of zero property owners, meaning like they're just starting out. And you could see when they're sitting down, husband, wife, or an individual or whatever, somebody here with their friend, there's a lot of wheels spinning. There's so much content that they get, especially really great content, but they get so much
They get overwhelmed.
information, they get overwhelmed. My tip or trick is to...
Hey guys, just want to interrupt the podcast to let you know that if you enjoy the podcast and the content that's in it, you would love my Tax Strategy Academy. This is going to give you the framework for developing all your tax plans for the entire year, whether you're a long-term rental, short-term rental investor. You're going to get a one-on-one call with me to map out your tax plan, and you're going to get access to weekly office hours where you can come and ask your personal questions. So if you're interested in learning more, go check out the link in the show notes below. And now back to the show.
My tip or trick is I like to work with people. So if you're a loner, no worries. But my tip or trick is to get involved with a few people, like have a little bit of a community, so you have a support system. I think that's really important. Second thing would be to learn, like educate yourself. Come to a conference, awesome. Listen to a podcast, that's great. Read a book. There's so many books out there. And then lastly, go and do something. You have to get out there and start something. You can't be behind your computer overanalyzing things all day long. You have to make offers. You got to try stuff. And what I say to people is if you're trying to buy a property and it's your first one, you have your strategy down. If you're not making offers every week, you're not going to get it, right? You got to make 5 offers every week. Probably won't get, anything for maybe 5, 6, 7 times. But if you make 10 offers, you might get 1 response. And you get that 1 response, you can negotiate. Right? Maybe it's 20, but you keep doing it until you get the first one. And once you get the first one and you learn, I think it's so much easier because you start seeing all the things. And obviously you have to continue learning, but that's the main thing is like community, learn, and then go out there and execute.
Awesome, man. Where can listeners of the show find you?
Yeah, so for Baselane, you can go to baselane.com. Often people think it's Baseline, but it's Baselane. And then for me, I'm easy to reach on LinkedIn. So if you want to add that to the description of the show, happy to do that and chat with anybody that wants to have a conversation.
Awesome. Thanks.
Thank you.